What's up, First Thing First listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now, back to First Things First.
First things first, on a Tuesday morning, will James Harden's ugly exit out of Houston cost him the MVP? LeBron James versus the entire Golden State Warriors last night. M to the V to the P performance from the King. And how about our guy, Brian Westbrook? Part-time analyst, part-time equestrian. Brian. Hi,
is he on the show today?
Welcome to First Things First.
Is he on the show today?
He is. Jenna, Nick, Brandon, we'll talk about it. We know Brian's hidden talent. Nick, give me a hidden talent right now. Something nobody knows that you're really good at. Like this.
Jenna, I can't even answer. I'm just realizing Brian Westbrook could have actually been a jockey. Right size and everything. Maybe he missed his call.
That's not right.
That's terrible.
That is not right. We're going to get to Brian's size in just a second. You know where we got to start this morning. Monster day in free agency. New faces and new places. You saw Bucs. They got Shaq Barrett signed up. The Patriots opened up their checkbook. Brandon, your guy Fitzy's got a new home. Jameis, there. He's back in New Orleans. Everyone you see here is getting a new locker next season. We have a ton to talk about on this Tuesday morning. Brandon, we'll start with you. What was your biggest takeaway from a wild start to the NFL free agency?
Ooh, follow the money. Oh, my goodness. The New England Patriots was the biggest takeaway for me, and what Bill Belichick and those guys did yesterday. It says a lot. They spent more yesterday in free agency, double the amount yesterday in free agency than they did in any other year in the past decade. And that says a lot, Wiles. I know you're ready to celebrate. I think you're going to come on this show and talk about how y'all are back on track. But the reality is, for the very first time in 20 years, you guys have to participate in the business of the NFL. Tom Brady was a cover-up for you. Tom Brady masked a lot of your problems. You can ask a guy like Randy Moss to come in and say, you know what, we'll give you, under the market value for you to come in and participate and win the championship. Hall of Famer Julian Edelman, he could have went out in his prime and gotten $3-4 million more, but he chose to stick around. The guys that you only chose to pay really was Gronkowski, if you think about it, in one or two offensive linemen. Outside of that, any guy that was coming up on free agency, they were letting go or they were trading. So the Patriots is the biggest storyline for me, not about all the money that they spent, but because of their approach to business now. It's different. You don't have Tom Brady, so you have to figure out how to manage the salary cap. You have to figure out how to build a complete team now, because before it was, okay, Tom Brady, a couple guys here and there, and then it was a bunch of guys, and this is the Patriot way. Now you need some dogs, you need some guys. So it's going to be telling, Wilds, in the next couple of months to see how they bring all this together.
Oh, how are we going to bring it together? Should we have a celebration the normal parade route, or is it going to be a different parade route? Or should Bill Belichick actually go to Tampa because it's nicer weather and go down there? My biggest takeaway, Nick, was that Bill Belichick did not enjoy the Tampa Bay boat parade as much as we all did. Tom Brady out there throwing Bill Belichick's Lombardi trophy, not treating it with the care where it belongs in Foxborough. So he went out and got his own boat. A boatload of money to spend on free agents. Oh, Brandon said it. We're spending money like crazy. And I loved it. We had 7 free agents. And then it's in addition to, remember, we got Cam back. We got Trent Brown back, who tweeted, I think he summed it up perfectly. He said, oh, looks like we're out for blood. And in the words of our favorite friend, Omar from The Wire, oh, indeed. Nicholas, I know some people around here saying, well, when you look at the numbers, when you look at the numbers, they actually overpaid a little bit here, and it's $2 million. Okay, you know what? It's not your grandmother's pension. You're not trying to, I don't know, Grandma, if you need that other sweater, why your one sweater's enough. We got to save a little bit for food.
Oh, y'all overpaid.
We're not trying to win the
You guys
frugal
overpaid.
Olympics.
I'm glad you're
We're
excited.
trying to get back at Tom Brady, my friend.
Let him have his
And I'm
moment, Nick.
feeling
Let him have his
fantastic
moment.
today. Fully caffeinated.
No, listen,
Wonderful.
this wasn't my biggest takeaway. My biggest takeaway was I am continuing my streak of being 100% wrong about everything related to the Bucs with Shaq Barrett signing. I went undefeated this season on being wrong about the Bucs throughout the regular season, the postseason, now into free agency, because I thought he was going to walk. But we don't need to show these highlights anymore. I want to stay on the Patriots. So get this nonsense off my screen, please. It's enough. I don't need to see any more Shaq Barrett. I don't care about the Bucs. I want to talk to Wilds about the Patriots. Wilds, I don't know your lovely and esteemed and very decorated wife, Libby, very well. But I'm going to postulate something. Is she a home goods fan, a home goods shopper? I feel like it's almost a universal yes.
If you have a beating heart,
that's
you're
what
a home goods fan. If you have an active
That's
pulse,
what I thought. So I feel like this is the Patriots free agency was. Your wife goes out of the house. It's like, hey, I'm going to spend the afternoon in home goods. You're like, okay, have fun. And she comes back, and there are just bags and bags of things. There's actually even a table. It's just the car's packed. And you're like, oh, my God, look at all you got. And then you unload it, and you're like, well, this is all okay. Like, what's the nicest item? Oh, a Nelson Agholor chase? Like, wait, hold on. You spent $82 on a Kendrick Bourne pillow? Like, wait, hold on. What's getting delivered? Oh, a Jonnu Smith armoire that you paid how much for? So, like, you got a bunch of stuff. How much of it is still going to be in the house 12 months from now? I don't know, but it's exciting in the moment. Like, Brandon, I do think I like Jonnu Smith. I like Judon. I think they probably paid a bit of a premium for Judon. I don't know if Agholor is going to be able to recreate what was a magical season for him last year. And Kendrick Bourne is on upside and not much else. But to me, this got the Patriots back in the game, not back in contention, if that makes sense. Like, they had to spend some money, and they did. But I don't know if they got any marquee item.
Yeah, they can compete, but I'm telling you, man, next year and the next couple of years, we're going to see who Bill Belichick really is as the general manager. As the head coach, that he solidified there. We know he's the GOAT. And while you mentioned something earlier talking about, the Lombardi trophy, it should be the Bill Belichick trophy. We may see that. We darn well may see that in the next 10, 20 years, us renaming that trophy. I think it's a conversation. But him as the general manager, it's unclear. For the past 20 years, you had the biggest cover-up in sports, and that's Tom Brady. When you have that type of quarterback, and then you have a bend but don't break defense, there are years where they're a top 5 defense, but for the most part, they just keep you out of the end zone. And that's why they're special, and that's why they've always won games. But now you don't have Tom Brady. He is the biggest X factor in sports. Hell, this dude's going to play till he's 45, 46 years of age. But when you look at Nelson Agholor, the names that Nick just mentioned, in 6 years, and I love Nelson. Nelson, if you're watching this, it has nothing to do with you, but I'm looking at just market value. I'm looking at production. They overpaid. We're talking about 45 catches a year and 550 yards. That's what he averaged around that, as far as per year. And then you look at Jonnu Smith, the tight end. We're talking about a guy who's been in the league for 4 years, and he averaged maybe 30 catches a year, and then another 365. So between the two, you don't have 1,000 yards, and you don't even have 100 catches, but you allocated $76 million to the pass-catching position. Like, that is a problem. That says a lot about the state of the New England Patriots post-Tom Brady. So, this is the biggest story to me, and not because you guys are going to be doing another parade, Wilds.
Brandon, I listened to everything you said, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and I appreciate your analysis and the accountant. And I think since you've signed so many big contracts and you're doing House of Athlete, and you worked with your agents, and you know how much the market is for a wide receiver. I don't care. I don't care one bit. I don't care at all. I don't care if people overpaid, underpaid. I don't care at all. We got wide receivers. You're like, Cam's got no weapons. Well, now you do. Did we get Juju? No, would have been great. Fantastic. But I don't care. I don't care. I don't have Microsoft Excel open. Don't care. Don't care.
You guys will be able to compete.
Wilds.
You guys will be able to compete.
Brandon, we didn't even mention when you were going through this. Look at what I've got here. I've got a Jalen Mills pillow. Normal on this side, a little wild on this side, and you're going to get totally sick of it in about 3 months, buddy. You're going to say, why did I spend all this money? Oh, it's cool. Looks cool. It goes over there. Nobody cares. Just absolutely. It's like it was cool in the moment.
Scheme it up. I played against Jalen. You better scheme it up.
Say what you will about the Patriots. They stole the free agency show on Monday. Meanwhile, we didn't even talk about Jameis Winston. He's back in New Orleans. You think he can possibly somehow, some way carry the Saints to the playoffs? We'll have that next. First things first. Big day yesterday. Hey, First Things First listeners. I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports. Plus, a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. Drawing a blank. Cam Newton got a shiny new weapon yesterday in the form of tight end Jonnu Smith. Excited to see those two together. But Brandon, the biggest name to switch teams yesterday was blank.
It's not the sexiest, and a lot of people won't pick him. But it's the most important. It's Joe Thuney. You got a guy out in Kansas City that's worth $500 million right now. He's probably going to go back to the table again and re-up for more money if he continues to do what he's doing. So you look at what they've done the last month. You know, they restructured a bunch of contracts. They let their entire offensive line go, it feels like. So now it's like, how do you protect the number one asset, not in just Kansas City and that organization, but in the NFL? He's the face of the franchise. He's doing things that no one has ever done in this sport. So you got to protect him. And this was a good start. Joe Thuney, this dude, since 2016, haven't missed a snap in New England. And he goes out and they sign him for 5 years, $80 million. And he's worth every penny. He's earned it, and that guy needs it. So that is the answer.
I like that answer a lot, Brandon. I'm going Bud Dupree. TJ Watt's, bookend pass rusher in Pittsburgh, leaves Pittsburgh, goes to Tennessee, 5 years, $82 million. The last 2 seasons, ever since Tannehill took over, the Titans' offense has been as efficient as any offense in the NFL. Derrick Henry mashing people in the mouth, and then Ryan Tannehill hitting people with play-action passes. The reason they've had a pretty defined ceiling is the defense has not been able to get any stops. Now, will Bud Dupree have the same success without people focusing on TJ Watt? I don't know, but Mike Vrabel's front seven in Tennessee needed a difference maker. They paid Bud Dupree as if he is one, so I think that is the biggest name to switch in free agency yesterday, Watts.
My answer is I'm still scrolling. I'm still waiting to see if any of the big wide receivers land. So far, nothing from the New England Patriots on that home front yet. I don't know if Belichick is up or the dog that was making the decisions in Nantucket during the draft. Because, Brandon, I'm still waiting for AB news. I'm waiting for Juju news. I'm waiting for Kenny Golladay news. We saw a lot of action, day one. Day two, do you expect one of these guys to sign, or do you think it's going to take a little bit longer?
Well, it could take time. I mean, if you don't have a deal done right now, this is like actually the tampering, the official tampering era. If you don't have a deal now, then it could take a couple days. So I expect it to take a couple days for some of these guys.
Okay, I'll stop scrolling.
All right, speaking of Kenny Golladay, Wild's named a bunch. There are a lot of big names still on the market, including Golladay, who's going to make a quarterback very happy somewhere. Let's play this one out. Brandon, the team that needs to be the most aggressive during free agency now is blank.
Oh, my goodness. I think we all should have the same answer here. And any answer different is just not right. The Seattle Seahawks, that's the answer. There were 12 offensive linemen taken yesterday, and they didn't take one. Are they going to participate in free agency to take care of that guy? Like, this is Pete Carroll showing us and telling us, like, look, I'm not willing to budge. So this is not good if you are a Seattle Seahawks fan, if you're a Russell Wilson fan, if you're a fan of just seeing these guys stay together. For this dude to stand up and say, my number one issue is I've been hit the most in the last 9 years. I have like 1 second to throw. I need someone to protect me. In the last 9 years, you've drafted one offensive lineman in the first round. You haven't allocated $54 million to the offensive line like the Vegas Raiders and, the Miami Dolphins, 40-something million. Like, can you help me out here? So this is Pete Carroll telling you exactly how he feels about this situation, and he's not really going to protect Russ, which means the Chicago Bears and the Vegas Raiders situation just got real.
Well, I think Mike Rimmers might be available, Russ, if you enjoyed watching him try to protect Mahomes at the Super Bowl, so maybe give him a call. I'm going to say the Packers, because they not only didn't add anyone significant yesterday, they lost someone significant. Corey Linsley, the center that Aaron Rodgers was afraid they were going to lose, they did in fact lose to a 5-year, I think it was $62.5 million deal. So I think the Packers need to make some type of major move. Bringing back Aaron Jones was good. You guys know that I've been beating the Odell to Green Bay drum. Make that trade happen and make the offseason a resounding success, Wilds.
Okay, so Brandon's answer is Russ, which is a full-blown fire. And then Nick's answer is like Aaron Rodgers, who has said quietly, like, yeah, I need a little bit more. Thank you for signing, our running backs back. I'm going to go with the Ravens. They're losing defensive players, and they lost Mark Ingram, who wasn't doing a ton, but they lost him to the Texans. Lamar hasn't been super vocal about wanting more weapons, but this is a simmering, it's not a fire yet, but there's just like a kid over there like playing with matches. Like, all right, like let's just not do that right now. Get Lamar the weapons that he needs to be successful. I want to see the Ravens be far more aggressive. Now, the problem is, Jenna, I don't know if a free agent wants to go to Baltimore where you're going to watch running backs run the ball and Lamar run the ball. Like, sorry, we only throw the ball a handful of times. So that's still
Kevin
the Ravens.
Zeitler, good run blocker.
I thought free agents don't want to go to New England, and like everybody went to New England yesterday. So I think the right money. I didn't want to go anywhere. On to San Francisco, where the Niners reportedly have Mitch Trubisky on the list of free agent quarterbacks they may pursue. Mitch had an up and down 4 seasons in Chicago. Usually you have an up and down season. He's had 4. So, Brandon, Mitchell Trubisky on the Niners would be blank.
Ooh, let's look at it. 2017, well, he just finished up his 4th year in the National Football League. 2017, 2,000 yards. 2018, followed that up his sophomore year, 3,200 yards. 2019, 3,100 yards. Wow. And then last year, 2,000 yards in and out of the lineup. Nick, I don't want to lose my credibility here. And I want to be respected for occupying this seat on FS1 First Things First. Bro, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by this.
Nice.
Mitch Trubisky with Coach Shanahan. This could be amazing. I absolutely love this. I think this dude together with Coach Shano, this could be magical. If you go back to 2019 and you go to the last 3 plays, the last 3 games in 2019, bro, you're going to see something special. If Shano can get to him and get that out of him, this could be an amazing ride between these two guys.
Stressing Nick out.
What is happening? Did Wilds get in your head before the show? Before the show, Wilds was like, guys, the rundown looks good, but where's the Mitch Trubisky topic? And I said, the Mitch Trubisky topic? He's like, yeah, might go to, he's like, guys, we need more Mitch Trubisky and Andy Dalton in the show. And I accused him of being drunk. I said Wild's still drunk from last night. He was drinking champagne all evening, celebrating Nelson Agholor, and this morning he's like, oh, Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky on the Niners would be what for? So are they just going to try to acquire as many quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan can viscerally dislike as possible? Like, is Blaine Gabbert on? Oh, is Blaine Gabbert might actually already be there. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's a contest to see Josh Rosen, my guy. So why would I don't understand this story. I don't understand this idea of, oh, Mitch Trubisky comes, he competes for a starting job. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He's going to lose the job to Nick Foles. He hasn't. He has not gotten better. Wilds.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
What do you say, Wilds?
I'm a quarterback wins guy. Last 4 games, he was 3-1. And I was talking to our lovely researcher, Dusty. I said, Dusty, what number would you be impressed with, completion percentage-wise, for Mitch Trubisky's last 4 games? Like, man, Wilds, I don't care about completion percentage. I only like advanced analytics. I said, fine. The jury has heard that. Which number would you be impressed with? And he said 70%. I said, okay, then, touche. Mitch Trubisky, Brandon, 74% of his passes completed last 4 games. Oh, team up with Kyle Shanahan. Who needs Deshaun Watson? You got Mitchell Trubisky. Congratulations.
Are you guys high? What? Am I the only person that gambled on the Bears last year? But Jenna, don't let him talk anymore about this.
All right, let's switch topics. Let's head to New Orleans. Hey, the Saints might have a quarterback competition after all. Reportedly bringing Jameis Winston back. 1-year deal worth up to $12 million. Jameis now expected to compete for the starting job with Taysom Hill. But Brandon, the Saints' playoff chances with Jameis as the starter are blank.
Dang, I feel like these last 2 questions I can lose all credibility for sitting in this seat. And then also my 13 years in the National Football League. And one of the things I always pride myself on is not being 6'5", 230 and being able to decel at 22 miles per hour and getting out of my brakes. That's not it. It's about the high football IQ. So hopefully, guys, please, y'all got to give me grace with my last 2 answers. But I'm optimistic. I'm a glass half full type of guy. I think this whole deal with Jameis Winston could be incredible. You got to think about where he was the last time we saw him in 2019. We're talking about 5,100 yards. Let's compare that to, Patrick Mahomes and then also Aaron Rodgers and where they stack up right there. And then even throw Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson in there. But then he had 33 touchdowns. But the problem is the 30 picks. This whole LASIK thing and can Jameis see? I have to believe that sitting a year under Sean Payton and Drew Brees is going to help you cut those at least in half. If we can get them down to 10, we're talking about a contender here. Because DeMario Davis came on the show yesterday, and I got a little messy. I said, DeMario, like, who are you going with? Is it Jameis or is it Taysom Hill? And I asked him a couple times, and he got mad at me, and he said, Brandon, you're not listening to what I'm saying. It's defense. It's defense. That defense is phenomenal. But they usually step into their own the second half of the season. So if that defense is the way for them moving forward, and this guy can come in and compete and just not throw too many picks,
Brandon,
this could be incredible. It could be. No, okay. I tried. Let me try.
Playoff chances with Jameis Winston as the starter are incredibly slim. Because you mentioned the defense. The defense just lost Trey Hendrickson, who might have been its best player last year. And I thought you were going to be struck down by the heavens when you were like, hey, look at Jameis Winston's 2019. Compares favorably to Patrick Mahomes. Aside from those picks, in 2019, Brandon, he threw more interceptions that season than Mahomes has thrown in his entire career combined.
I know.
You can't yada yada. This is it was a great play. It was an amazing rendition. If you ignore the part where Lincoln was assassinated, it was a great night out. You can't. That's the story.
But
here's
my problem, Nick.
Too soon, 160.
But here's my problem.
No, there's no problem.
Here's my problem.
No.
Really quick. 13 years playing. And every time I walked in a locker room, there was always like 3 or 4 guys. I was like, why is this guy on the team? He has no chance. We are going to lose with this guy. And then the coach, the general manager, give the guy a shot. And then after about 3 or 4 months or a year, they develop into something special. So I believe in development. I believe that guys can get better.
Jameis Winston's almost 30. He's been in the league.
He's not a young kid anymore.
This is year 7. This is going to be year 7. Wilds go.
That's brutal. Brandon, text us later who those players were. Why is this guy in the league? He's terrible. He's awful. I will say this. Bucs revenge. Bill Belichick on a revenge tour against the Bucs has taken up all the oxygen. You got to think Jameis Winston's got a little bit of that. A little bit of Tom Brady. Like, you know what? That's my spot. I should, whether it's true or not, I think that's in him. And Demario Davis was right. Tom Brady during the regular season threw 5. They picked off Tom Brady 5 times. Remember they had that big 38-3 shellacking. So I think I'm with Brandon. I'm optimistic, but mostly because of the defense, not because of James.
Goats throw picks, Nick.
Nick's being a realist here. I get it. All right, we're going to head back to New England now. How happy should Cam Newton be with Bill Belichick's free agent spending spree yesterday? At least half as happy as Wilds. We'll have that for you next. First things first.
Hey, First Things First listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to First Things First.
First things first. Hey, Wilds, your Patriots. It's a damn shame they didn't do anything yesterday. Oh, hang on. They did everything yesterday. Bill Belichick went on a free agent spending spree. Would have put my friend Marnie to shame, and she's a shopper.
Enjoy your
tight end,
12 hours.
Jonnu Smith. Big 4-year deal. Receivers, Nelson Agholor, Kendrick Bourne, they're signed. On defense, linebacker Matthew Judon. You got Jalen Mills back. Sign everywhere. Sign with this team. Eric Mangini with us this morning. Coach, let's start with you. Good morning. How much better do you think the Patriots got yesterday?
That is a great question. I saw the volume of signings, and with free agency, there's always 2 components. There's the talent component, and there's the chemistry component, and it's a difficult balance. When you look at the talent component, what New England did, there's some real positives. I really like Jonnu Smith a lot. I think that was my favorite signing that they had yesterday. And in terms of Matthew Judon, that helps. But I think back to Adalius Thomas and when the last big time outside linebacker that they got from Baltimore, and the way that didn't fit from a chemistry fit, and that was their giant signing that year and their uncharacteristic signing that year, just like this year. And I see the receivers and there's some positives, but it feels a little bit like a boom or bust class. There's a lot of guys that are okay and emerging, and there's some guys that had good years last year, but we're not talking about 70, 80 catch receivers that they're bringing in. You're talking about guys that are in the 50 catch range in terms of production. Yeah. And
that's right.
Factor in the offensive tackle that they got, Trent Brown. Was it Brown from
former Patriot?
Former Patriot. But there's a boom or bust element to him too. He played really well in New England, didn't play very well in Las Vegas. So, is it exciting? It's exciting for the fans. It's exciting because it's different. But I don't see the gigantic impact players outside of the potential of Judon and Smith.
So, Coach, here's the question I would have, because I do think that the Patriots had massive needs at pass catcher. I think they had needs at impact defensive players, and they at least put bodies in those spots. But if this were another team, if this were the Cincinnati Bengals, and they had given out all of these contracts to all of these players, what do you think the reaction would be? And what do you think your reaction would be? Because I think there is some skepticism despite the fact that it's Belichick doing it, and he has obviously earned an amazing benefit of the doubt. But I think historically, when we've seen teams go out and spin like this, Coach, on the first day of free agency, usually, and it's like, okay, so you bought Agholor at his peak, you're paying for Jalen Mills near the peak. Like, there would be a lot of skepticism if it were a team without the Patriots' track record, correct?
Well, there's skepticism, but everybody loves volume. Everybody loves action. Everybody loves movement. So you can win the first week of free agency. You can get the crowd excited about what you do in March. But when you look at the significance of the signings, and you look at the guys that they potentially are going to lose, whether it's a guy like James White or Rex Burkhead, or they lost Thuney, they could potentially lose David Andrews. There's a significant amount of talent that's leaving the building as well, and you have to put that all together and see where it goes cumulatively. And we talk about the Patriot way and the process that goes into building that team, and you have a ton of players from different programs coming in, and that's the chemistry component. And you don't have Tom Brady there to help glue it all together. You've got a very different locker room than they've ever had before, and now there's this influx of new potential chemistry components.
That's what I want to get to. And that's what I want to get to is Tom Brady. And to me, he's the biggest mask in sports over the last 20 years. So for me, to answer the question, did they get better? Yes, they've gotten better. They added some good players. These aren't bad players. But to Nick's point, they overspent for these players. Like, they went over the market, beyond it. We're talking about Nelson Agholor and then a tight end, Jonnu Smith. Like, these dudes, between them, they don't average 100 catches a year. They don't average 1,000 yards a year. You look at Nelson Agholor, has been in the league for 6 years. He averages 45 catches a year and 550 yards a year. Good player, solid player, but is he worth $13 million a year? I don't know. And then you have the tight end. You got Jonnu Smith. So you look at him. We're talking about 28 catches a year in his 4 years, and then 325 yards. So between the two, you're not getting the production of a number one receiver. And they allocated $76 million to that position, to these guys. That's a huge problem to me. And a bigger story, Coach, and it goes to Tom Brady, is I feel like this whole post-Tom Brady era is starting now. Like last year, you have like a lame duck year. You're like, all right, let's just go out there. We pay Cam Newton $1 million, and they're also like, Bill Belichick comes out and he's like, well, we went all out for the Super Bowls and the championships that we already had. So now we just got to figure it out. Now we have the cash to do it. But at the end of the day, you guys didn't have the players. What you did is you went out and got guys, and you underpaid a Randy Moss, Wes Welker, and then you got your guy, Hall of Famer Julian Edelman, who you stand on the table for every single day. But he could have went out in free agency a few times and gotten more money. So that it was because of Tom Brady. It was an attractive destination. Now you're seeing Bill Belichick. He has to participate in the business of the NFL. This is where every other team has to be. They have to manage the cap. They have to get super savvy in how they recruit guys and get guys in. So it's telling to me of how they did business yesterday.
All right, Coach, when we look at, here's what was exciting from a fan's point of view. The intensity and the speed and the volume of signings felt like we were back. It felt fantastic. And I saw our friend Chris Healy, who's a Jets fan. Poor Chris Healy's out there tweeting like, please do something, Jets. Just do something. And we talked about Brandon earlier in the show. We talked about Russ. Like, all right, what's Pete Carroll doing for Russ? Not much. So the fact that the Patriots were so aggressive, Coach, is what was interesting for me. So the question to you is this. I know we have sound, but I just want to keep it here, Coach. Do you feel like this was motivated by Tom Brady's success? That we know a lot of the stories from Russ were like, Russ had to watch Tom Brady win the Super Bowl, so that's what made him really mad about Seattle. All right, I'm sure Bill Belichick won the Super Bowl too. And if he's not on Twitter every day reading, people ripping in that he lost it and it was all Tom Brady and him, it feels like there was an aggressiveness that is motivated in beating the Bucs and the fact that the Bucs have to come into Foxborough. Do you buy that, or is it just still sober Bill Belichick filling holes in the team?
Well, I don't know if it's purely motivated by Tom Brady's success or really Cam Newton's lack of success. And by Cam not being as successful as they hoped to be, that they got him back for $5 million, which allowed them, in addition to the salary cap issues that they had last year that they got out of, to go ahead and be aggressive in spending. And you have to give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt in free agency. And a lot of people will criticize his drafts, but he's usually been very strong in free agency. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. And they had the opportunity in terms of what they had financially to go ahead and make a lot of moves. The other reason I think this is okay from a longer term perspective is the cap should raise over the next couple years. So what these contracts look like right now will probably look a lot less next year when the cap goes up again. So if these are the guys that they targeted, that they feel major gaps, then I'm all for it. But you don't necessarily see the impact players that you typically get on the first day of free agency. And when you look at the Judon signing, it does remind me a lot of a Adalius Thomas. And hopefully it works out different for both the team and the player. But it's a chemistry mix as well with free agents, and that volume going in and the amount of guys they're letting leave New England, it sends a very interesting and somewhat confusing message to the locker room.
Yeah.
That's why we bring Eric Mangini on the show. Coach, good stuff. Thank you so much, as always. We got to take a break. We're headed to Tampa on the other side. We got Shaq back. They got Gronk back. Everyone's back. Are they destined to make a repeat run to the Super Bowl? First things first.
How many times are you going to make me watch Ndamukong Suh punch Mahomes in the face?
Back here, first things first, guys. It is unofficially official. The Bucs are running it back. Yesterday, they signed Shaq Barrett, Tampa's postseason hero, to a new 4-year deal. A little later, Gronk agreed to terms on a 1-year deal. The Super Bowl champs are getting the band back together, made their own guys the priority this free agency. Like to see that. We got former All-Pro Brian Westbrook joining us now. Brian, good morning. Start with you. What do you think? Should the Bucs be favorites to repeat after the offseason they've had so far?
Good morning, Jenna. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Nick. Your jockey friend Brian Westbrook is back here. The Bucs should be favorites to run it back and be champions again. Listen, they got the GOAT Tom Brady back. That's a big time importance right there. And they got the core guys back as well. They got guys to agree to come play for them for less than they would have gotten out there on the free agent market. And when you think about it, usually guys are going out and saying, hey, I just won a Super Bowl. Now I want to get paid. Give me that money. So they were able to get their core at that point. They also, they're playing against the AFC East and the NFC East. That's a great scheduling for them when you look at it. So that's a benefit as well. Here's the big questions that I have for the Tampa Bay Bucs. How do you handle success? I remember when we played in 2004, we make the Super Bowl, we lose by 3 to the Patriots, and then we say we're going to run it back next year. We'll go with the same team and run it back, and we'll try to get back to the Super Bowl. Next season, we dealt with injury, we dealt with turmoil inside the locker room, and we ended up 6-10. Didn't even make the playoffs. We weren't a very good football team, so you have to worry about that. Last but not least, for the Tampa Bay Bucs, last year they were the underdogs. They were the hunters, not the hunted. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs were the hunted. At one point, they were 7-5. And so now you're talking about this season as they come in, they're going to be the hunted. And that's a totally different mentality. And so they have to make sure that they renew themselves and come back with a different mindset, a different mentality. And if they do that, you add all those guys and all those things, those positive things up, they have a very good chance of repeating.
All of that's true about hunter versus hunted. But in the meantime, the Bucs have had up to this point a flawless offseason. They've done everything they wanted to do. Their two most important defensive players that were up for free agency, Lavonte David and Shaq Barrett, both back. Their most important offensive player up for free agency, Chris Godwin, franchise tag. Brady extended and restructured. Gronk back as well. So now you're really just dealing in the minutiae, like will Ndamukong Suh be back? Will Antonio Brown be back? Will Leonard Fournette be back? I think all of those three guys, Suh was probably the most important to them over the course of the season. Fournette, the most important of those three in the playoff run. But all kind of luxuries for them. So, Brandon, I have to give them credit. I did not think, and I don't know if anyone thought, they were going to be able to keep Barrett, David, and Godwin. Now, once you guys saw David and Godwin re-signed, you guys thought they were also going to be able to keep Barrett. I didn't. But at the beginning of free agency, when we were power ranking the importance or the beginning of the offseason, I don't think any of us said they're going to hit the trifecta. They're going to keep all of them and have Brady locked up another year and Gronk comes back. So if you're Jason Light, you're going all in on this mini run in this 2 or 3 year window with Tom Brady, and I got to give him credit. He's been able to bring everybody back.
But are you okay, buddy? You know, you're a guy that remembers everything. You don't remember? It wasn't a big debate on this show, but I feel like I was the guy that said Shaq Barrett will be back. And you were the guy that was like, well, it didn't happen. Like, this is the first priority. Why didn't?
As of yesterday, I was saying he wasn't going to be back.
So don't throw me in that category as far as, nobody thought. I talked to Lavonte David. He was on the podcast, and I asked him, and I said, do you think Shaq will be back? And he said, look, my deal's done, and now they're working on that. They're trying to bring back the band. We all want to be back. The Bucs, what they did is they leveraged this emotional high. That's what they did. They paid these guys, like Gronkowski, $10 million. Gronk ain't getting that nowhere else. I'm sorry, but that's the biggest shock. Like, the biggest shocker out of all of this, when you talk about the Bucs, is it's one for $10 million. Like, look at the production he gave you. But the reason why they did it is because they understand the how valuable he is in the locker room and how valuable he is to Tom Brady. So can they run it back? Absolutely. Their biggest challenge is going to be themselves. This offseason, are you guys going to party? Are you guys going to have fun for what? The next month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, all the way up till September, till kickoff, to the NFL, season opener? Or are you guys going to get back to business and train? You know, Tom Brady just had the knee surgery. He's going, Tom Brady's going to do everything he can to get back where he needs to be. But what about all these other guys in that locker room? We're talking about almost 90 guys in the offseason in one locker room. And you got to make sure everybody's head is right and everybody understands, like, what you just did doesn't matter anymore. So they absolutely can get back there, and they can be better because they didn't figure it out. Whilst from what Lavonte said, they didn't figure it out until week 12 when Tom Brady came in after that terrible outing against the Kansas City Chiefs and said, look, we're not going to lose any more games. That's from them. So I believe they're going to get better because they're going to step into the season as who they are. They know their identity now.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brandon. And I think that any worry about the Super Bowl hangover, even though Super Bowl hangovers for the loser, I think Tom Brady and the success he had in New England and just his overall being a force multiplier in that locker room takes care of everything, and everyone will stay focused on the next game. Nick, do you feel like there's any parallels between, the Bucs and the Chiefs? When you talk about, like, Brandon was talking about the emotional high, well, now the Chiefs are on a little bit of an emotional low. And that actually made them get better, right now because they lost. And that's why they went inside Joe Thuney. Because you guys had a great season, just coming off of a Super Bowl. And then just like an absolutely brutal, emotionally devastating. Some people say embarrassing loss in the Super Bowl. Humiliating. I saw that. I thought that was a bridge too far. There's memes, and I just thought it was a lot, and people are burning jerseys, and you're like, why are we Chiefs fans? Should we disband the franchise? There was a lot of that. Should we have the players go other places? Like an expansion team?
Not for Wilds, other people.
So there was a lot of stuff after you win the Super Bowl, and then you fail. But the point is this. Even when the Chiefs won, they went and got better. They went and drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're like, let's get Le'Veon Bell. I don't see the Bucs doing that. So do you like the way the Chiefs handled their offseason, where they went and tried to get better, and do you think the Bucs are doing enough?
I say this with no due respect. I think you spent too much time on that stupid bit trying to make me feel bad because I don't understand what you're saying. So first of all, the Bucs are doing exactly what the Chiefs did last year. They brought everyone back. The Chiefs last year re-signed Chris Jones. They gave Travis Kelce an extension. The whole thing was run it back. And I know Bruce Arians said, that's the Chiefs thing is run it back, but it's exactly what they're doing. And by the way, the Bucs would be thrilled to be in the position the Chiefs were in. The Chiefs were 14-1 last year, rested everyone in Week 17, and were back in the Super Bowl. And then things went wrong in the Super Bowl, most notably on the offensive line. Like, if you can tell the Tampa Bay Bucs, guys, we will give you the Chiefs season from last year, absent the regular season, forget the playoff run, and then it's choose your own adventure from the playoffs, they will take that in a heartbeat. So, yeah, I think this is what you should do if you're a Super Bowl champ. Try to bring as many people back as you possibly can. Try to bring as many people back as you possibly can and see if you can run it back. I also find it interesting, Jenna, that all of a sudden, after I had to spend all year hearing about a Chiefs Super Bowl hangover, Wilds just says flippantly, Super Bowl hangover, we know that's for the loser of the Super Bowl. Oh, we know now. We know now. Yeah. Last year, it's not what I was hearing. Last year, that's not what I was hearing. But what do I know?
Look, everything you just said, that is the floor, Wilds, for them is exactly what Kansas City did. They have something that the Chiefs don't have, and that's Todd Bowles and that defense. That's one of the most difficult things that you can go against in the National Football League is a tough defense, a top 5 defense. We're talking about a pass rush that gets there like that. So now you bring all those guys back. Now, granted, injuries play a big part in this. And then you got guys like, are they going to really embrace this offseason to have fun and to celebrate? Or are they going to embrace this offseason to have some fun, but also get back to work and get back to business? Because guys can come back out of shape and not in the right mindset. And now we're looking at another 7-5 start for them. But for me, Tom Brady, and I hate to say it this way, but he is the weak link on this team. You got to think about that. Tom Brady, the GOAT, is the weak link on this team.
Wow.
No, 100%.
Hello. Well, change the block. You just start a new segment.
That's the whole thing. We're going to get to that. All right, just hold off, because I think you silenced all of us. We want to play a little Dry and Blank because of this right here. Brian Westbrook owns a horse farm. Brian Westbrook does tricks like this. It's a jockey thing, apparently. Brandon, Brian Westbrook's equestrian skills are blank.
Bro, come on, man. You play football, man. What are you doing? This is really good. You're introducing us to something new. Is it supposed to go like that? I absolutely love it. Yeah, I mean, come on. What are you doing? Listen, can you explain this to us?
I'm a retired football player. Now this is my new sport, riding horses. I've had a horse farm for 15 years at this point, though. But this is called reining. I'm trying to introduce you guys to something new. This is called a spin move. Right here. This is how you work on your spin move if you're a football player on a horse.
You can't make the horse do what you did your entire career.
Should a football player ever find himself on a horse, that's what he's supposed to do. From horses to hoops. LeBron and the Lakers taking care of the Warriors last night. Metta World Peace joins us next. Tells us if the King can keep it up with AD stuck on the sideline. It's next. First things first. Here, first things first, on a Tuesday morning, we now welcome in Metta World Peace. Metta, good morning. Thanks for getting up and spending some time with us today.
Metta. Good morning. Thanks for having me this morning. It's good to be on the show.
Of course, we have a ton of things to talk about. We got to start with the Lakers after what you saw last night. I'm going to call it an effortless win over the Warriors, beating them by 31. Triple-double for LeBron as his MVP push continues. With no AD, who reportedly could miss 3 more weeks with that Achilles injury we're hearing. So I'll start with you, Metta. Was last night proof that the Lakers should not rush Anthony Davis back?
Yeah, I think so. Don't rush him. You want him in the playoffs. The first couple games was rocky, though, huh? I thought the Lakers was going to have a rough time. You know, they dropped a couple games, but LeBron is just so smart. And the team has a lot of experience, so they should be okay.
Well, and I would expand it to the people that are concerned about Anthony Davis, I think, Metta, are concerned about, is he going to be healthy at the end of the season? Is he going to be healthy come the playoffs? And my feeling on it is, and this I would call it informed speculation, talking to people around him, that the reason for the prolonged absence is what they call an abundance of caution. That if the playoffs, for instance, if the playoffs were starting in a week, Anthony Davis would be playing in a week. But because they're not, they are going to give him as much time as possible. Are there any downsides, in your opinion, to him being out this long as far as the rust or the ramp-up period to get ready for when the playoffs do begin?
I'm actually okay if Anthony Davis didn't even return because he got a ring. The Lakers got a ring. It's really difficult to get a ring, right?
Yep.
Sometimes it takes organizations lifetimes, right? So we got the first ring. He's hurt. If they got to protect him, you know, just protect him as long as you have to, even if it means the playoffs. Now, hopefully he could come back.
Yep.
But if he got to rush it, you know, we'll see him next season.
All right, well, here's the deal. Well, there's people like me and Nick Wright that literally gets up every morning at 4:30 to prepare for a 5 a.m. production meeting to talk about this. And it's black and white. It's all about championship. So it matters. Every day that goes by, it matters. So for me, there's a couple conversations here. Should they rush Anthony Davis back? Absolutely not. Like, it does. We saw what happened with KD. You always got to put the player and its health first, even when that's bigger than a championship. So we don't know exactly what's going on, but you know, I know Nick knows people, so when he says that they're just taking extra caution with this injury, I believe him. But at the end of the day, the other side of this thing is, let's not get twisted, because the question is, should last night, like we're going off of last night's victory, like we shouldn't even be thinking about March when it comes to the Lakers. What did I say yesterday? Because I got to prepare every single day for Nick and how he's going to come at this thing. Because I got the Nets on one side, he got the Lakers. I got now I had Embiid, you got James Harden for MVP, and this dude, Nick, you got LeBron James. But so when you look at it yesterday, I'm like, post All-Star break, you can't judge it. Why? Because this schedule is so weak. We're talking about the Golden State Warriors, the Atlanta Hawks. We're talking about Minnesota, Indiana. So we're going off of that. Then I don't know what we're talking about here because it doesn't show where they're at. We know going into the break, they lost 6 of 9 games. And now they're going to go on a nice little win streak. And now everybody's going to be talking about, well, the Los Angeles Lakers, they're back on track. And then LeBron James, he is the clear-cut MVP. No, look who they're playing against. Look at the schedule. So it's a bigger conversation, just AD and his last night's victory over the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah,
but it's good that they
aside
get it
from
done
last
because
night,
right
Go ahead, Metta.
No, I was just going to quickly say it's good that they're getting it done because winning is hard, and you still want to position yourself, you know, to be in the top seed for the playoffs, even though the record is kind of weak. I mean, even though the schedule's kind of weak.
And aside from the Warriors, Brandon's right, they do have a lot of softer Eastern Conference teams coming up, the exact teams the Nets have been feasting on during this winning streak, but we don't have to get into that right now. Wilds, though, I heard you I don't want to say mutter, but I heard you almost audibly agree with Metta's concerns about AD. And you have been pushing the, I don't want to say pushing, you have been reminding folks what happened with Kevin Durant, and that it had a scarring moment on NBA stars.
He's worried about
You
him.
seemed, because I think everyone agrees they obviously can't win the title without Anthony Davis. Metta's saying maybe you can sit him the rest of the year. That's not, I don't believe that's going to happen. But you seem, of everyone on the show, the most concerned about Anthony Davis's ability to return to 100% form this season.
Yeah, and Metta, thank you, because I think that you're the first person to say, Anthony Davis, we should think about shutting Anthony Davis down for the rest of the year. It's been kind of like danced around, but no one has just straight up said it. And I agree with you that I think you should be talking about shutting him down. And here's why. An Achilles injury that happened to Clay that just came out of the blue, we know they can hit and be devastating for a player. That's one thing to be concerned about. But when KD had a calf injury that turned into an Achilles, and it was big on who's going to be blamed. And KD's like, it's not the Warriors medical staff. It wasn't. And Bob Myers was crying after the finals, saying, if you need to blame somebody, blame me. I think that changed the calculus with medical staffs in the NBA. Because if it's Dr. Metta, do you want to be the guy that says, you know what, AD's good to go? I'm willing to put my reputation on it. Or would you be like, you know what, give it another week, give it another week, give it another week. And you give it another week because I don't think you want to just say like, yup, it's on me if it happens. And then if it does happen, your career and reputation are ruined and the whole world is mad at you. So I thought it was very savvy for you to, and you're the only one saying that they should shut him down for the rest of the year.
I mean, the players are so tough. And even though when Brandon played, you'll play through anything. I remember when I played against the Spurs, I was off from meniscus injury. I came back in 5 days, literally. And it wasn't because of the doctors. I went online and did some research, and I said, look, right here it says that you could be back in 5 days from a meniscus tear. And it really set me out 2 years. Pretty much ended my career. I had a surgery one time on my thumb. I was supposed to be out 6 weeks, and I was back in 7 days in Indiana Pacers. So I literally said, I'm playing. I don't care what you say. I had a heart surgery also when I was in Chicago. I was supposed to be out. They went through my leg. I had heart surgery. They went through an artery in my leg. And I was supposed to be out for like a week. And I literally got off the table, drove from Chicago to Indiana, went to the gym, started working out. My heart started pounding out my chest. And then I told my doctor, I'm like, doctor, my heart is coming out my chest. What's happening? He said, I told you to rest. But the players, you can't
y'all say my stories around injuries are bad. This is worse than mine.
Yeah. We all just fainted. For you kids at home, don't get medical advice on the internet if you're a professional athlete. Perhaps there is a doctor or something. Let's move on. Less graphic information. Let's talk about Brooklyn. Kyrie, man, he was in his bag last night. 34 points as the Nets held off the Knicks late. Still doing it without Kevin Durant. We just talked about him. He'll now reportedly be sidelined for at least another week or two. They're being very cautious with him. Nets being very, very careful not to rush him back. So, Metta, will the Brooklyn Nets have enough time to mesh into true championship contenders when KD returns? Haven't played many games together, those big three.
I mean, you can win a title with two of them. You just pick any two. You know, you got an opportunity to win a title.
Facts.
You pick three of them. I mean, it's going to be a rough time for the opponents. You know, even my Lakers, it's going to be a rough time. But you can rest him on that team. You got two MVP caliber players that can carry the load.
Ooh, yeah, I got two right here. Unfortunately, I don't have the James Harden jersey yet. We got KD, so we got to put KD down. Did you hear the man, Nick Wright? See, this is where it gets juicy on this show. I've been saying it before the season even started. Everybody got all these question marks around James Harden. Who is he? You know, can he come in? Is he out of shape? He's 15 pounds overweight. These dudes are putting together. It's too much offense. And yes, Nick, we can start talking defense now. And now my only point with defense, because it's mid-March, on this show we said we can't talk defense until mid-March is when guys start really getting into it. It doesn't matter. Defense doesn't matter for this team. It's too much offense. You got three guys averaging 25 points or more. James Harden last night had 15 rebounds, 15 assists. He had a triple-double. The way they're doing this, Nick, you have to respect it. James Harden came in and made them a contender, and what they've done the last 15 games or so, now it's almost like, you know, it's their championship to lose.
Okay, so you're right. yesterday was the day that you announced that we could start discussing defense, and I would like to applaud your beloved Nets for one of their better defensive performances of the season, holding the high-scoring Knicks to 112 points on a game that came down to the last possession. It's an outstanding victory. Also, I'm very surprised to hear Brandon and Metta essentially say Kevin Durant's a luxury piece. Not necessary. KD, who went to Brooklyn so he could finally be somewhere he was needed. Now all of a sudden it's like, hey, is KD going to be the best third option we've ever seen? I don't know. It's just what people are saying. But Metta, I just want to ask you, because you were on a lot of really good teams. You won championships. You were on excellent Pacer teams as well. Here's my question to you. What was the best team you were ever on that was bad defensively?
The best team I was ever on that was bad defensively, I would say it was probably that when I got to the Sacramento Kings, we was in last place when I got traded from Indiana. And we was in last place in the West or something like that. And then the defense kind of stepped up. But Corliss Williamson did a lot.
My God.
We had Coach Adelman. Coach Adelman is more on the offense side, but I remember Corliss Williamson bringing that Detroit Pistons defense and really just making the best out of it.
You heard that, Brandon? Brandon, I don't know if you heard that. Metta was on a bunch of great teams, and he's like, let me tell you the best bad defensive team. That team I was on in Sacramento with Corliss Williamson. Those vintage Kings of the late 2000s. It's an awesome memory. I'm just saying, we got a defensive stopper here.
It's like you guys telling me I can't talk about the Suns. We're not going to talk about the Sacramento Kings on this show, Wilds. Come on. Come on.
All right. Okay, go ahead, Jenna. Pepper's telling me Jenna next. I'm going to save it. I'll text Ron. I'll text Metta.
No, you're not going to text Ron. Right. Well, the show's better when it's actually on camera, but we'll videotape you texting him. Metta, tell us a little bit about what you're working on there, the X versus X Sports app.
Oh, yeah, thanks for letting me get a little plug. Yeah, X versus X Sports is basically designed to find out who's the best player in the area. I was always interested in that. When I retired from the NBA, I still wanted to play because, you miss that excitement from playing in front of fans and seeing who's the best. And I did about 17 years. I wanted to do 20. So then I said, you know what? I'm just going to create an app for myself. And then when I found out it was actually working and it was fun, actually, then I said, I'm opening it up for everyone else. So sign up to the app, play games, input the score, and you get a chance to see if you're the best in your area.
Wow. Nick, you're definitely not going to make the cut.
That's really cool.
Nick's not going to make it.
Yeah, Nick, no more.
He once broke his arm or his leg dunking it like a tennis ball or something.
Shots fired.
But it's actually cool because you don't have to be an elite player. You keep your reputation. Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, that's perfect for Nick. That's exactly what he is. Not quite an elite player. It's just for recreation. It'll be absolutely perfect. Thanks for joining us. Great insight. Really appreciate having you on this morning.
Thanks for having me, everyone.
Thanks, Metta.
We're going to take a little break, talk some football on the other side. Chiefs, are they doing all they can to protect their man, Patrick Mahomes? Find out next. First things first. That's a great ad. On Sunday, the best season ever continues on Fox as the NASCAR Cup Series rolls into Atlanta. Catch all the action for the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500, 3 Eastern on Fox and anywhere on the Fox Sports app. All right, we're going to head to Kansas City. The Chiefs started to piece together a new O-line yesterday, something they could have used in the Super Bowl. Just saying. Right. Chiefs signed former Patriots guard Joe Thuney to a monster 5-year, $80 million deal. Look, it's no secret. They're trying to protect their biggest asset, and that's Patrick Mahomes, who tweeted some smiley emojis after the news. Nick, you love or hate the Thuney signing for the Chiefs?
I certainly don't hate it, but I'd be lying if I said I loved it. Brandon, I want to talk to you about this because you said it was of the players who changed teams yesterday. This was the one that jumped off the page to you the most, and it jumped off the page to me as well. But here are my concerns, listed in order. The first one is there is a long list of guys who played offensive line for the Patriots at a super high level.
Yep.
The Patriots opted not to re-sign. They went somewhere else, and they never reclaimed that level of play. Now, Logan Mankins stayed a great player, but Nate Solder didn't.
Trent Brown, Nate
Trent
Solder.
Brown didn't.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly right. So we were thinking of the same guys. Now, I know those guys were tackles and this guy is a guard. The other aspect that I would have is, you mentioned it earlier. The Chiefs are essentially trying to remake their entire offensive line. Their center's gone. Both of their tackles got injured during the season and are probably not going to play again, and so they released them. To spend this much money on one spot, and it's not a tackle spot, it's a guard spot, concerns me. So I think he's an excellent player. I think that the fact that he's never missed a game is super important to me. But it's the left guard spot, which isn't one of the most important spot on the offensive line.
Right.
And it's a ton of money for a team that doesn't have a ton of money. So that's why I'm a little ambivalent on it.
Yeah.
Did you share those concerns?
But well, first, it's not the sexiest, but it's the most important signing, because you got the face not only of the Kansas City Chiefs, but the NFL and Patrick Mahomes, worth $500 million, and he has no offensive line. Like you just said, they let go of their tackles. Yeah. They had, 5 guys share 100 snaps at the guard position. So it's important, because it doesn't matter if you have Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, you go Speedy. You got so many other guys on that offensive line. You got even Coach Andy Reid. Those guys don't matter if you can't protect your quarterback and he's not standing upright, in 2 seconds within, the snap of the ball. Like, that guy has to have a clear pocket. And we saw that in the Super Bowl. They were exposed, so they have to make a move. Now, this is just the start of it. This is a deep draft when it comes to offensive linemen, so they can clean up there. But it comes down to scheme, to your point, Nick. Like, I know when we were with Josh McDaniels, his point of emphasis was actually the center and the guards was the most important pieces on the offensive line, because he could scheme up, chipping the edge and making sure guys are in position and doing different things, bringing the tight end in, which you see Gronk do this year, game after game after game. So you can scheme up the tackle positions. A lot of people say, yes, the left tackle most important, right tackle, because you got a right-hand quarterback and you got to protect his vision. So it depends on how they're planning on scheming this offensive line up, because they have to. They're not going to have just a foundation up there where he's going to have all types of time to throw. He's going to have to make plays on his feet, continue to do that. He's done that for a long time, Wilds. But at the end of the day, Andy Reid now has to be a freaking beast and a monster scheming up protections.
So, Brandon, here's the thing. You've been the first person on the Russell Wilson is upset breaking news. You put on your little journalism hat, it says news on the side. But, Nick, do you know how many other franchises, fans, or analysts would be overjoyed if they saw their franchise quarterback tweet out 3 happy face emojis? A Seattle fan, imagine the Seattle would go, they have a parade if Russell Wilson tweeted this. If Aaron Rodgers tweeted this, people would lose their minds. God, who knows what would happen if Deshaun Watson tweeted this and it involved the Texans and not the Dolphins. So I think the fact that Mahomes is happy means you should be happy. Like, I know he's a guard, but he's super versatile. Like, he also played center for the Patriots. He's a great guy and also brings a championship pedigree to you guys. He's got 2 rings. You guys only have 1. You can learn from some of that Patriots mystique. So I think that you should be more happy and less worried.
Chiefs franchise has 2 rings, by the way. Super Bowl 4 erasure I will not stand for, so I don't understand what you're talking about. Second of all, this. This is what, Brandon, would make me overjoyed. Because they restructured Chris Jones and Travis Kelce and Mahomes. They do, and Thuney's first year cap hit's only $5 million because how they structured this. They still have money. If they get a left tackle to go along with him, and I've got one in mind. If the plan is we're going to use our first-round pick on a right tackle, we've got the Dr. Duvernay-Tardif coming back from the COVID opt-out because he opted out to go help people who are dealing with COVID at right guard. We'll see about center. Left guard, Thuney. And then what if I told you there was a man with the nickname Silverback, who the only thing he's missing from his Hall of Fame resume is a Super Bowl ring, who tried to go get it in San Francisco and it didn't work out, and who's still sitting there unsigned in Trent Williams. What about Trent Williams and Joe Thuney? All of a sudden, you have 2 all-pros on the left side of your offensive line. You'll never have to slide protection. You'll never have to double team there. And then you can figure out the right side. Like, that is, to me, there's another piece that needs to happen for me to share those Mahomes emojis that Wilds pointed out, Brandon.
I love it. I mean, it's a big name, and why wouldn't you want to go play with Patrick Mahomes? We're talking about a guy can go down as the greatest quarterback ever, and Andy Reid. Like, you know, your path to the Super Bowl is clear. And then there's another name out there, and no one's really talking about it, but Kyle Long. Kyle Long retired from the NFL. Now he's back on the market.
Like that too.
Right? So if you... Kyle Long is a guy out there that can that can easily come in and be not an all-pro. That's too much. He could potentially be a Pro Bowl player next year. So I think they have options out there. And Andy Reid, you have to think, because Patrick Mahomes and they're in this window right now. You guys are in this window that this is the #1 priority. They cannot go into the offseason or into the next season with this same type of approach on the front. Like, can't do it. Because Patrick Mahomes is getting older. And as you get older and you have more injuries, the ankle, the knee, the toe, like, you don't want to get hit as much. So standing in the pocket and just taking those hits, like, he's not going to do that as much. So they got to figure it out, because they want him to continue to be efficient and also lights out, Jenna.
All right, we talked about Patrick Mahomes. Let's talk about another superstar quarterback. Do the Seattle Seahawks need to start making moves to keep Russ happy? We'll have that for you next. First things first.
I think Kyle's going to play for the Raiders.
Back here, First Things First, time for stories to start your morning, brought to you by Subway. Kevin Wild, start with your Patriots, buddy, who were very busy bees yesterday. Maybe last season was just enough failure to come out hard in free agency this year, and that they did. They got tight end Jonnu Smith, big 4-year deal for him. They got receivers Nelson Agholor, Kendrick Bourne. They are signed. On defense, they got Matthew Judon, defensive back Jalen Mills. The list goes on and on. Signed, everywhere signed. But let me ask you this. Are the Patriots officially back? Brandon.
Well, look, if I'm a Patriots fan, it's exciting when you see it. Free agency opens up, and then you see, oh, wow, they're spending so much money. But if you really pull back the layers, it should be more cloudier than clearer for you guys. Now this whole post-Tom Brady era has officially started. Last year, it was like, nah, like, that's your word, Nick. Man, like, let's figure it out. We don't have the money. Let's not overdo it, overcomplicate things with this in the middle of a global pandemic. Now Bill Belichick is showing us how he's going to operate and how he has to moving forward, because this is not an attractive destination anymore. Tom Brady is not there to mask up all those other problems that you may have had and teams haven't had in the past, where you can bring in, these veterans for cheaper, because guys are willing to come in and say, you know what, I'm towards the end of my career. I still have a lot of left in me, or I have 1 or 2 years left that I can really produce at a high level, so we can get that Super Bowl, so I can feel accomplished. So this is Bill Belichick. This is more about Bill Belichick than it is about, these splashes and free agency, where, Bill Belichick is showing us now he has to operate just like every other general manager and every other team moving forward. Like, you have to go out there and you have to manage the cap. You have to figure out how to get guys in. You have to recruit, and you're overpaying, because you got Nelson Agholor and you have the tight end Jonnu Smith. Like, these dudes, between the two Wilds, we're talking about they don't have enough production to be a #1 wide receiver. Like, I like them. They're good players, but you've allocated $76 million to these two guys, and they're going to give you 76 catches and 820 yards. So that is an issue. That says a lot about this era that you guys are now in post Tom Brady.
Okay, so I agree with you. I disagree with you on their potential for their production, but I do agree with you that the future is a little bit cloudy, because Bill Belichick, like a dragon in Game of Thrones, came through and lit everything on the free agency market on fire as he was breathing fire out of his championship mouth, and the smoke was rising from the Twitter feeds as NFL reporters like, oh no, the Patriots are back in a major way. We had 7 free agent signings yesterday. We had people re-sign. We had a few people leave. Congratulations, Nick. And we also got Cam and Trent Brown back. But, Nick, a lot of people are like, all right, the Patriots back. Oh, we never left. We just left. Well, you know what? We did leave. We took a gap year. And no one wants to say that Bill Belichick was making excuses earlier this year when we were 2-5. But I'm going to play you a piece of audio that I thought of while we were lighting the world on fire yesterday.
I mean, look, we paid Cam Newton $1 million. I mean, it's obvious we didn't have any money. You know, it's nobody's fault. That's what we did the last 5 years. We sold out and won 3 Super Bowls, played in the 4th, and played in an AFC Championship game. You know, this year we had less to work with.
Sellout season, Nick. Oh, here's a great highlight. Fire up the bus, drive it around Arrowhead while we're at it, Bill Belichick. Hey, so this is sellout season. We said we did it. We won 3 Super Bowls. Took a year off, but guess what? We're back. We're selling out. I don't want to hear that we paid $1 million here too much. Oh, $50 there. Oh, $27. And when you look at the accounting, I don't care. We're after Super Bowls, babies. And if the Bucs get credit for going all in, and we want the Packers to go all in and they won't do it, we want Pete Carroll to go all in and we won't do it, well, Bill Belichick's after ring number 7, buddy. Sellout season. And you know what? Put your Cam Newton jersey on. Maybe tomorrow if you want to grab it. You can come back to the Patriots.
Here's the thing,
fold, buddy.
A couple things, and we don't have a ton of time here. One is, I also would not want to talk about the accounting if I had just paid that much money to Jalen Mills, Kendrick Bourne, and Nelson Agholor. I also would be like, who cares about the money when the money is the whole point of the free agency thing. Yes, also, by the way, you and Bill Belichick seem to have an odd relationship with history and the truth, because you're like, well, it was one gap year. Those 5 years, we went to 4 Super Bowls, won 3 in an AFC Championship game. What about the year you lost in the wild card round? You guys lost in the wild card round, then you had your gap year, and now you're here. So as far as we never left, I'm not certain about that. Here's what I do know, Brandon. I was thinking about what Brandon was saying, which is essentially Tom Brady gave them an advantage they don't have anymore. You know what it reminds me of? The New York Yankees, when they used to be able to spend more than everyone else. Brian Cashman was a genius. And then the Red Sox and the Cubs and the Dodgers started spending as much as they did. And all of a sudden, that built-in advantage is gone. They haven't won a championship, or they've won 1 championship since. To me, that's what the Patriots have to be worried about, Jenna, is that built-in advantage permanently gone.